Hello and Assalamu alaikum. I am Kashif Kamran and I welcome you to the fourth day of the Advanced Audit and Assurance Practice to Pass webinar being organized by ACCA Pakistan for September 2019 examinations. Now, today is the fourth day, and the focus of the fourth day is on other assignments. Other assignments is another core area of the advanced audit and assurance syllabus, and I have consistently covered this particular area in most of my previous webinars. So you can gain more insights on this area from my previous webinars as well. Now for today, what I will be doing in other assignments, let's find that out. Now, in terms of other assignments today, I'll be focusing on two particular other assignments, one being the audit of performance information, and the second being forensic. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen the exam questions I will be doing for audit of performance information, December 14, question number 3B, and December 15, question number 2B. And for the forensic, I will be doing June 13, question number 2B, and December 11, question number 4A and 4B. Now, on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see my previous sessions when other assignments have been covered as a topic. It was covered in March 18, then it was covered in December 18, then it was covered in June 19, and this is the fourth time I'm covering them now in September 2019 sessions. The reason of choosing audit of performance information and forensic over due diligence and prospective financial information since the new format started from September 18 exams. In the September 18 exams, the auditor tested the audit of prospective financial information. And then in the March exams, the auditor tested the due diligence. I am not saying that they cannot come in the September exams, but eventually, these two topics we are discussing today are more important. But you cannot go into the exam hall without preparing due diligence and prospective financial information. I've already covered them in my previous webinars, so you can get hold of the prospective financial information from my March 18 webinar, and you can get hold of the due diligence from my December 18 webinar. Okay, let's focus on the topic we have for today, which is to look at audit of performance information and the forensic audit. Now, firstly, let's see, is there any examiner support for these topics? Interestingly, examiner has written articles on both the subject areas, which is the subject area of audit of performance information and the subject area of forensic. You can see there is an article on performance information in the public sector, the hyperlink of which has been given, and the article has been shared with you as a resource for the day for today. Then the examining team has written an article on forensic accounting, and the hyperlink again is given, and the article itself has been shared with you as a resource for the fourth day. Both these articles are must to be read by a student before entering the exam hall, because these articles will give you a very good insight about examiner expectations from a student. Now, as on the previous 3 days, my focus initially will remain the same. That is to first understand what exactly a question on performance information and forensic ask a student, then looking at the marking scheme, then looking at examiner expectations, and again, are we meeting the examiner expectations? And then finally looking into the drilling process, that is to solve an exam paper. So you are perfectly clear about holding an exam paper. Okay, so let's set the agenda for the fourth day. Let's take on the Word file, as I've been taking this file consistently over the last many days. And let's discuss the fourth day in terms of the other assignments. I am not committing, but if possible, And if I have time into the session today, I might be going over the new article on the current issue, which has just been published yesterday, which is the data analytics. So I might be spending 15 to 20 minutes at the end of my session today on the article, the new article, which is data analytics. So uh, again, this is not a commitment, but this is something where I would like to spend time on in my session today. Okay, let's start on with the fourth day. Right, and in terms of the fourth day, we are doing a topic known as other assignments. Now let's first find what are examiner expectations for other assignments. Firstly, there is another assignment which is known as audit of performance information, which I will do first. In this topic, audit of performance information, what exactly the examiner expects from you? So far, so forth. Uh, this question has come thrice, and in all the three instances, the examiner has tested two very common things, right? Firstly, this question has been tested in December 14, question number 3B. Then this was tested in December 15, question number 2B. And then this was tested in June 17, question number 3B. So thrice this question has been tested in the past papers, and you can visit these three questions. I'll be doing two of them in my session today, but the important thing is that in the three exam sittings where this topic has been tested, what has been the focus of the examiner? When we look at the examiner focus in terms of this topic, examiner has focused on two things. Number one, procedures, which has been a regular feature of December 14, December 15, and June 17. 50% of the question was on procedure. 50% of the marks were on procedures. Then secondly, and I hope you remember the day two, we were discussing on the day two that the procedures also come on audit of performance information. And I did discuss with you a list of procedures which was specifically coming from the article on audit of performance information. I hope you remember that. Procedures. Secondly, it focuses on knowledge. And this knowledge is given in the examiner article. So examiner is testing the knowledge the examining team has given in the article. So two things comes from this topic. One, the more regular feature, procedures. Second being the knowledge. Now, how many of you into the day four has also attended the day two? And remember that we made a list of procedures from this very article. And this very article, we made a list. I hope you remember that list, everyone. Test of controls, analytical procedures, discussion with management, minutes, source document, discussions. Did you remember that list we made from this particular article on the day two when we were doing the procedures? Because again, that list would be coming back again today. Okay, then second thing, when we look at the examiner expectations from this topic, again, you all know now that examiner expectation for a procedure. And you know what is the examiner expectation for a good procedure? A good procedure should have an action. A good procedure should have a source. And a good procedure should have a purpose. So do you all remember the ASP? That is a good procedure, the expectation of the examiner, and the examiner will be giving us 1 mark for a good procedure, right? Then comes the knowledge. Examiner expectation in terms of the knowledge is very simple. Examiner expects that the student should read the article. Student should take time to read the article to explore the knowledge. So knowledge is a frequently asked area from audit of performance information, and you will realize the importance of that, and you will realize the importance of reading this article at the end of the 4th day. Knowledge, mostly when knowledge is tested in the advanced audit and assurance paper, first of all, knowledge testing is very minimal in the advanced audit and assurance paper. For example, the examiner asking for advantages of something or disadvantages of something, or examiner is asking for importance of something or benefits of something. Such things are very limited in the advanced audit and assurance paper. So whenever the knowledge is tested, on average, the knowledge has 1.5 to 2 marks. So how many marks you have, you will on the safe side, it's better that you divide them with 1.5 marks when you're looking at the area of knowledge. So any knowledge things, divide them by 1.5 marks. Sounds as a better rule of thumb rather than dividing them by 2 marks. Okay, now second, what are we expecting from the topic which is known as forensic? Is there something different in forensic? Now, when we look at forensic, forensic has also been tested many times in the past paper. If you go very early, forensic has been tested in June 11, question number 4. That's the earliest question. Then again, the forensic has been tested in December 12 exams. That again was the question number 4C. Then forensic was tested in June 13. That was the question number 2B. And then forensic was tested in June 15. That was the question 3C. So a lot of time forensic has appeared in the past paper, but it has appeared in parts C, part C, part B, part C. So it's not like a complete question on forensic. It's been an area which has come for very less marks in the prior exam settings. Now, the testing will help you to do the past papers, right? And I'll be doing some of them in my session today. Second, examiner focus. What the examiner tries to focus on. Number one, the examiner tries to focus again on procedures. In December 12th, the focus was on procedure. In June 13, the focus was procedure. In June 15, the focus was procedure. So the more regular feature of a topic on forensic is procedure. And then another area which is tested on forensic is the knowledge. And again, you know the knowledge, you need to uh, read the examiner article. So please make it your habit that you will be reading these articles if you have not read them yet over the next 1 to 2 days. Now again, the examiner expectation is pretty simple here. Just like the topic above, the examiner expectation is that you should know a procedure and you should know a good procedure. We've already covered a good procedure above, that it consists of ASP, action, source, and purpose, and it will give us 1 mark. And then again, the examiner will test the knowledge, and we should read article for knowledge. And how many marks will we be getting for knowledge areas? Just recap, how many marks will we get for knowledge areas in AAA exams? Mostly 1.5. So we'll be getting 1.5 marks for knowledge area. Now this covers the structure. Is everyone clear with the structure of the two assignments before we start going down more? Audit of performance information, what examiner expects from you, and forensic, what examiner expect from you. Now, knowing that, let's take a step ahead. Now let's open the first topic and go deep inside audit of performance information. What exactly the examiner expects from us in audit of performance information. Okay, audit of performance information. Now I'm guiding you something. Please listen to it very carefully. Now, in terms of audit of performance information, when we look at the knowledge side, first of all, what exactly the auditor has to do in performance information? What is exactly the purpose of performance information, right? Performance information is more simple. The auditor has to give an assurance, which the auditor is being hired for, and the auditor needs to give an assurance which needs to be mutually agreed, and it can be moderate and it can be reasonable. There is no defined assurance level for audit of performance information. So the management and the auditor needs to mutually agree the assurance level, whether the management wants a moderate assurance on performance information or the management wants a reasonable assurance on the performance information. So there is no defined level of assurance for audit of performance information as a non-audit service, right? So the assurance has to be mutually agreed, right? Just before that, the assurance has to be mutually agreed. All of us should know this is a non-audit service, which is part of our syllabus. And the assurance level is to be mutually agreed, right? Number three, what is the scope? What exactly is the auditor doing in this? Auditor needs to give assurance on the validity, on the validity of the performance information given or presented by the management. As like an audit, right? In the audit, the auditor gives assurance that the financial statement gives a true and fair view. Is that true? In the audit of the financial statement, right, the auditor gives an assurance that the financial statement gives a true and fair view. Is that true? Right. So in the audit of performance information, the auditor is giving an assurance, moderate or reasonable, right, on the validity of the performance information given or presented by the management. Now, performance information can be anything, right? Performance information can be the social and environmental performance. The performance information can be the performance information in the public sector. Both these questions have come in the past paper. Performance information is basically what? Performance information is basically the key performing indicators. Performance is basically the key performing indicators, which is other than the financial statements of the company, right? Key performing indicators. And in the past exams, this performance has been social and environmental performance. This has been a performance of a university performance. This has been a performance of a hospital, public sector. So examiner has tested the social and environmental performance in the December 14 exams. Examiner has tested the social and environmental performance in December 14, the university in December 15, and the hospital in June 17. So is everyone getting the message? I need the answers quickly from all of you. Performance information is broader, right? Performance information can be any information, which is basically known as a key performing indicator. It can be the social and environmental performance. It can be a university performance. It can be a hospital performance. So when we conduct the audit of the financial statement, we are only focusing on the financial statements, right? And we give assurance that the financial statement gives a true and fair view. But when we are conducting the audit of performance information, we are also giving an assurance on the validity of the performance information. And who has presented the performance information? Who has presented the financial performance information? The management. So is there a risk that it could be wrong? Is there a risk that it could be presented in a better manner? Is there a risk of a management bias in the performance information? So should the auditor give an assurance on the validity? So that's basically the purpose, right? That's basically the purpose of conducting an audit of performance information. So I'll be going across the question on social and environmental performance and university in my session today. And on the basis of that knowledge, you will be doing the question on the hospital as your home assignment. Okay, let's take the next thing. Now, in terms of the knowledge, examiner do ask students that the examiner do ask student in terms of knowledge to discuss three very important things. To discuss the following in reference to performance information. In reference to performance information. And these three things have been covered in the examiner article. Number one, measurability. Measurability of the performance information. Number two, reporting. And number three, relevance. So the examiner asked students to discuss these three terms here: measurability, reporting, and relevance, right? And when you're giving an assurance, you're giving an assurance on the validity of the performance information. Is it true and fair? Now, what exactly measurability means, what exactly reporting means, what exactly relevance means? Let's have a discussion on that. You need to read the article, right? Now, when we speak of the measurability, measurement of the performance information, do you all believe that to measure the performance information, let's show you an example. Let's show you an example. You will understand that more easily. Let's show you an example from the past papers. Okay, now can you see in front of your screen, there is a past paper which I will be doing in my session today. Can you see the last column where the company has given their performance for 2014, their social and environmental performance for 2014, just to understand what is measurability? Can you see the management is giving a performance in 2014 that donations of $550,000 were made to local charities? Now, do you believe when the management says they have given a donation of $550,000, which they have measured that during the year they have given this much donation, how does the management comes to know they have given this much donation? Do they have records? Do they have systems? Do you believe systems and records are very important, which helps management to know what they have done in the year? Can the management gets to know the information without systems and records? How you get information, right? You get information on the basis of systems and records. Do you all agree with that? Information. How we get information in a company on the basis of systems and records. How do we get the financial information? On the basis of a trial balance, on a basis of a journal ledger, on a basis of the books, vouchers. Can we get financial information without the vouchers, journal ledger, trial balance? So do you understand that performance information or information basically depends upon systems and documents? So can we measure the performance without having systems and documents in place? Has the donation increased from the last year? Do we need to have records? How much donation have we given the last year and how much donation have been given this year? Then only we can compare, right? Has the donation increased or not? So do you believe that if the management wants to measure something, look at the number two, 800 free flights was provided to a charity. Now the management have a record, right? The management knows that they have given 800 free flights to charity. They also know how much free flights have they given the last year. So do management maintains records of these free flights, that they've given the free flights? It will be easier for the auditor to check them. So what exactly the measurability means? Measurability depends upon availability of information. So can we measure something without information? How much something has increased or decreased, or how much we have given, how much donation we have given? It depends upon the availability of the information, and comes through information comes through systems and documentation in a company. Do you all believe this statement which I wrote in front of you, that measurement depends upon the availability of the information? Information comes through systems and documentation in a company. So do we need to have proper systems in a company from which we can get the information, that how much have we given to a charity, how much free flights have we given to a charity? Should this all be captured in a company? Should this all be captured in a company? And should this all be documented in a company properly? So is capturing information important? So capturing of information, capturing of information plus the documentation of the information. You know two things, right? Input and output. Capturing is the input and documentation is the output. Capturing. So do you believe if the management wants to measure something, how much was the environmental emission the last year, and how much was the environmental emission this year? To measure the environmental emission, do they need any sort of information? How much was the CO2 emission the last year, and how much was the CO2 emission this year? To measure the CO2 emission, do they need information? And the information comes from the systems and documents, right? So the information needs to be captured and the information needs to be properly documented. So do you believe measurement is an important element of performance information? Yes or no? Do you all believe measurement is an important element of performance information? And do you all believe systems and documents are important to measure? Measurement, right? Measurement. Okay, number two, reporting. Now, when management reports performance information, take the same example here. We were reporting here the CSR. The management was reporting CSR here in terms of their performance. Now, when the management is reporting CSR, for example, do you believe that reporting has some challenges or reporting have some issues? Number one, there are no defined standards to report performance information. This is not the financial information, right? Where we have the accounting standards or we have the international financial reporting standards. There are no defined standards to report performance information. So the management exactly does not know what to report. So management is facing challenges, right? When they're coming to the reporting part, how much to report, how to report. Are these challenges? Do you agree with this? How much to report? How much to report? Openness, what to report, the format of the report. So, do you believe when there is absence of standards, are these two very challenging questions? What to report and how to report? So, the performance information of one company can differ from the second company. Is that true? The performance information of one company can differ from the second company. Is that true? The financial statement, the way we make the financial statement, will that differ from one company to another company? No, because we have standards. We have accounting standards. We have IFRS. We have IAS. Do we have such standards for performance information? No. So do you understand that there are some challenges when we report, how much to report and how to report? So will reporting vary from a company to company? So is it more flexible? Is it more flexible because it vary from a company to company? So measurement of the information, reporting of the information, and last comes relevance. Relevance means stakeholders. The inf- is the information relevant for concerned stakeholders? Whenever we publish information, do you all believe whenever we publish information, the information is published for the stakeholders? So is it relevant? Is the information relevant? Is it addressing the concerns of the stakeholder? Now, if you are publishing the CSR information, right? Who are likely stakeholders of CSR? The charities, the NGOs, the pressure groups. So if you are publishing the CSR information, who are you addressing? Are you addressing the charities? Are you addressing the pressure groups? So is the information relevant for the pressure group? Is the information relevant for the environmental groups? Is the information relevant for the charity? So should the management ask a question to themselves? Is it relevant? Is it relevant to the stakeholders? Is the information relevant for the concerned stakeholder? So is everyone clear with these three terms here? Measurement, reporting, and relevance. Can you discuss them in exam paper? But you need to read the examiner article, right? You need to read the examiner article to get more examples of measurement, reporting, and relevance. But is it something simple to understand for exam paper? Measurement of performance information, right? Reporting, relevance. So more stakeholders. If the company have more stakeholders, then you have to report more, right? So stakeholders is a very complex process, right? Stakeholders is a very complex process. Now, if a hospital is reporting performance information, who are relevant stakeholders for hospital? The doctors, the patients. The doctors and patients are two most relevant stakeholders, right, of a hospital. The government, yes, even the government is a very important stakeholder for the hospital. So should the management look at whether whether the information presented satisfy the stakeholder? If the information presented satisfy the stakeholder, will it be relevant? If the information presented satisfy the stakeholder, will it be relevant? Yes or no? So is everyone clear on the three terms? Right? Okay, now let's do something here. Let's do a question directly so that you understand this. Let's do a question drill. And we're doing the first question drill, which is from December 2014, question number 3B, which is right in front of your screen here. Can you see what is exactly the examiner asking in this question here? See this. Discuss the difficulties in measuring and reporting on social and environmental performance. Discuss the difficulties in measuring and reporting. Can you see these two terms here? Measuring and reporting. And what difficulties the management can face. How many marks we have for that? 4. Should I divide them by 2 or should I divide them with 1.5? So how many difficulties should I be writing in total? 3. So I can write more difficulties for measuring and less for reporting, or I can write more difficulties for reporting and less for measuring, right? But in total, how many I need to write? 3. Okay, then can you see the second requirement of this question? It says procedures, procedures on the validity of the performance information. And you know how to make procedures, right? The procedure should start with action, source, and purpose. 6 marks. So 6 marks means how many procedures are we writing here? Six. Okay. Let's do the two things here. Number one, discuss the difficulties in measuring and reporting in reporting performance information. Okay, number one, the first difficulty. I'm giving you a sketch answer, right? Let's do bullets. The first difficulty in measuring and reporting social environmental performance can be there could be lack of systems or lack of documentations. Can a lack of system and lack of documentation be a difficulty in measuring the social and environmental performance? Lack of systems, lack of documentations, reporting what to report and how to report. Do you believe these are challenges, these are difficulties? What to report, how to report? There is absence of the absence of standards, absence of benchmarks. There are no benchmarks given, absence of benchmarks to measure your social environmental performance. Do you believe when there are benchmarks, it's more easier to measure your environmental and social performance? And when there are no benchmarks, it's very difficult to measure social environmental performance, right? For example, is there any benchmark of how much donation should a company give? Is there a benchmark how much donation should be a company giving? Now, this company has given $550,000 as a donation. Is it good? Is it bad? How can you measure that? See this? This company has given a donation of $550,000. Now, how would you measure? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it difficult to judge? Is $550,000 donation? Is there a benchmark of giving donations? There is no benchmark, right, of giving donations, right? So does measurement becomes difficult? Does measurement becomes difficult because there is no benchmark? So can you just make them into paragraphs? One, two, three, four, five. How many should we be writing? All five? No, we should be writing any three of them, right? Any three of them into a para form. So write any three of them in para form. Write any three of them in para form. Lack of systems, what to report, how to report, absence of standards, absence of benchmarks. Write three of them in para form, right? So normally the benchmarks are not given, right? Benchmarks are not given. I've never seen examiner given benchmarks. If benchmarks are given, then obviously that will not be a difficulty. But obviously when benchmarks are not given, that is a difficulty, right? Because we cannot measure in the absence of a benchmark. Okay, the next thing. Discuss the difficulty. Then the next thing we have to work upon is procedures. Procedures on validity of performance information. Now, when you look at the procedures on the validity of performance information, we have 6 marks for that, right? Okay, let's go with the first one. We are making procedures on performance, right? And performance is given in the last column. You can see the performance, right, given in the last column. How many procedures we need to make looking at the last column? In total, 6. The first one, donation of a $550,000 were made to local charity. Is it more easier to make a procedure on donation to confirm the validity of $550,000? Can we review the bank statements, or can we review the donation slips to confirm that $550,000 donation were given? So is it easier to confirm the validity of $550,000? So number one procedure, review the bank statements to confirm that dollar to confirm the amount of donation given during the year. Or number two, review the donation slips, which is the source document, right? Review the donation slip as a source document to confirm the amount of donation given. So can you see the ASP, action, source, purpose, in the one and two? Review was the action, bank statement was the source, to confirm was the purpose, review again was the action, donation slip was the source, and amount of donation is the reason. Right. Now, obviously, if donation slips are fictitious, that is the limitation, right? We do audits under the limitations, right? Now, whenever we do the audit, the entire record can be fictitious, right? But do we still do audit? Yes. That is a limitation of the audit, right? That what if the management has made a fictitious record? We don't think such things in exam paper, right? In the exam, we just need to make a procedure, right? Because in exam, if we do such thinkings, we cannot make a procedure then. And these are limitations. These are inherent limitations of audit. So is everyone clear on the first and two? Can we also correspond in writing? Correspond in writing with the local charity, with the local charity to confirm that dollar 550,000 donation was made by the company. So can we just confirm that in writing with the charity that the company has given a $550,000 of donation, right? So are we writing the procedures the same way we learned them on the day two? Is that the way of writing procedures across the 100 marks paper, irrespective where you get the procedures in exam paper, right? Okay, number two. Look at the next one. The company has given 800 free flights. The company has given 800 free flights with a value of $560,000 were provided to charity. 800 free flights. What is the cost of these free flights? $560,000. So has the company incurred this as their cost? $560,000. 800 free flights. So have they charged them? No. So is this an expense for the business? $560,000 were provided to the charities, right? So to whom have we given these 800 flights? Read the column in the center. The column in the center says we have given these 800 free flights to the global charities. We've given these free flights to the global charities. So can again we correspond to the global charities to confirm the 800 free flights were given to them? And can we check the records of the company, like the board minutes, to confirm the approval of these 800 free flights? Right. So can we have procedures like such on 800 free flights? We can review the board minutes for approval of the free flights to global charities, or we can also review any correspondence between the company and the charity, review any correspondence to confirm that the company agreed to give 800 free flights to charity. Or we can even analyze um, analyze the increase or decrease in the free flights offered this year versus last year, and discuss reason with management. We can even do this point with the donations, that how much donation was given the last year and how much donations were given this year. So analyze the increase or decrease in free flights offered this year versus last year and discuss reasons with management for any significant variation, for any significant variations. Okay, you can also review the ticketing records because the company is running the airline business. Review the ticketing records to confirm that 800 flights were offered for free, right? And you go on. The answer has been shared with you, right? You can see the answer, but are you getting the track of writing procedures? Yes, you can also recalculate the cost per flight, that is dollar 560,000 divided by 800, because a lot of student is asking for this procedure. Recalculate the cost per flight, that is $560,000 divided by $800 is equal to $700 per flight, and confirm 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 the validity versus the route for which it was offered. Because obviously, with route, the cost changes, right? It might be offered from London to New York, or it might be offered from Dubai to London, right? So the cost per flight will vary from a route to route. So you need to see the $700 per flight on which route it has been offered to check the validity of $700. Yes, obviously, because if the company gives performance information every year, right? So you can do a comparison that how much donation they give the last year and this year. If there is any significant surge, obviously that's the skeptical nature of the auditor, right? That if something is increasing or decreasing, the auditor should know the reasons because that's the knowledge of the business, right? You might ask management why you given 100,000 donation last year, and for this year why you have given like 600,000. Well, there need to be a reason for that, right? Was there any need of giving more donations this year, or has the company been using donations as a way of saving taxes? Because mostly you also get a tax rebate when you give donations. So comparisons are possible, right, of anything, whether that is financial or non-financial. And obviously, auditor is skeptical, right? So auditor needs to ask reasons for many things just to increase the knowledge of the business. So is everyone clear on writing procedures? Is everyone clear on writing procedures? You will continue the rest of the answer yourself. The answer has been shared with you, but am I deviating from the rules ASP? Right? Let's look at the next question quickly on the same topic. Look at this one. This is December 15. When you look at the December 15, can you look at the requirement of the December 15 exam paper here? Can you just see the December 15 requirements? It says discuss the relevance and measurability of the reported performance information. Discuss the relevance. Relevance means stakeholder, and the measurability. Is he saying difficulties? Is the examiner saying discuss the difficulties? No, examiner is saying generally discuss what is relevance and what is measurability. So can you see how is the examiner testing these jargons from the exam paper? Relevance and measurability. Now, do everyone knows what relevance is? Can you write something on relevance? And do everyone know what is measurability? How many marks we have for discuss the relevance and measurability out of the total 10 marks? 5. Examiner is saying total marks will be split equally between each part. So we have 5 marks for this, and we have equally 5 marks for this. And how many procedures do we need to discuss? We need to discuss relevance, number 1, and we need to discuss measurability 2, and then we need to discuss the procedures on the performance information. And we have 5 marks, so we need to write 5 procedures. Can you see the performance information for 2015 given here? See the last column, that is the performance of 2015. See this, the graduation rate has been 85% for the university. You need to confirm the graduation rate. Academic performance has been 20%. Number of students achieving a distinction, 20% students achieve distinctions. You need to confirm 85%, 20%, 65%, and 70%. Now, just do it differently. You go back to the worksheet and you write a title December 15. Let's do it differently, right? December 15, question number 2. First, you need to discuss the relevance and measurability of performance information, and we have 5 marks. 5 divided by 1.5 is equal to 4. 4 discussions. 4 discussions would be relevant to score 5 marks, right? Can you be able to do this part on your own? What is relevance and what is measurement? Can you be able to discuss that? We just discussed that at the beginning of the session, right? Then in the second part, the examiner is asking for procedures on performance information. And the examiner is saying you have 5 marks for that. Now let's do it something differently this time. If I take you back to the examiner article, the article, and want to show you something from the examiner article on performance information. Okay, can you see this article on performance information by the examining team? Which is right here. Right? Now when you go down this article, there is a list of procedures given. Can you see these words here in the examiner article, measuring? So will you be reading this? Will you be reading this? Measuring. Can you see this word in the examiner article, relevance? So please read this article if you want to be good on relevance, if you want to be good on measurement. Please read this examiner article, right? Okay. Now, can you see the procedures given by the examiner here? That these are ideal procedures, but we need to make them case specific. Test of controls on the system used to generate information. If we want to confirm the validity of the information, we were doing the last question, right, where the company has given a donation and 800 free flights. Now, if we want to confirm that the system from which the company gets the information, and we do test of controls on the system, and the result of the test of control on the system is effective. So can we rely on the information which has been presented by the management? Can we rely on the information presented by the management? So can we do this even in the last question we did, test of controls? Can we do it here in this question as well? So can I just make this point here in my university question? Number 1, See, how would I make it case specific? I'll say perform test of controls on the systems used by the Rothko University. Perform test of controls on the systems used by Rothko University to generate performance information to confirm whether the systems are effective or not. Is that an important point, to rely on the information which Rothko University has published for 2015? If the systems from which the results have come out are good, can I rely on the information which has been presented by the Rothko University? Can I even write this point in my last question, that perform the test of controls on the faster jet systems to confirm that the systems used by faster jets are stronger, to confirm whether I can rely on the performance information or not? So can you tailor the question in the case context? Perform test of controls, number one. Number two, perform analytical review to evaluate trends. Examiner says perform analytical review to evaluate trends. Now, see this question here. Can I do the analytical procedures as to how much was the graduation rate last year, or how much was the academic performance last year, and how much was the course satisfaction the last year? Can I do analytical procedures for 2014, 13, 12, just to see how much the result has increased or decreased? Can I do that? So is it possible to do the analytical procedures comparing the 2015 results of the university with the previous results? Arsalan Ahmed, why you're saying no? Cannot we do the analytical procedures because the university will also be having the results of the last year? They are running a university, right? So will they not have results of the academic performance of the last year? Will the university don't have results of the last year? The graduation rate of the last year? No, irrespective whether it is mentioned in the question or not. How many times have you seen examiner given you the prior numbers? But is that not something journal, that we can do the analytical procedures if the management give us the information to do the analysis, right? So can we do this number next procedure? Analyze analyze the university performance of 2015 with that of the last year to identify any significant variances, and discuss with management the reason thereof. I'm just trying to apply the list of the examiner to this question, just to give you a different way of writing procedures, right? So can we do the analysis of the university result of 15 with the prior years to see how much has been the fluctuations, and then discussing the reasons of that with the management, right? Number three, examiner says number three is you can have discussions with management. We've already discussed with management, right? The reason of fluctuations, discuss with management. Let's see the case study, discuss with management. See this in front of your screen. Percentage of student achieving a distinction. Should I discuss with the management what is the criteria of a distinction by a student? Do I know the criteria of distinction? That what is the criteria of distinction? So should I discuss with management how much marks the student needs to gain to get a distinction? Right. So can I discuss with the management the distinction criteria? Discuss with management the criteria used, the criteria for awarding distinction to a student. criteria used for awarding to a student, right? So are you getting the procedures in a different manner from the last question we did, right? So if you know the list of procedures given by the examiner, can we adapt them? Are you getting this message? Do we know, if we know the list, can we adapt them to the situations? Okay, number fourth. Examiner says review the minutes. Review the minutes of the meetings. Let's see if there's something particular here for us to review the minutes. Okay, can we review the minutes of the Rothko University to confirm any major decisions they've taken about students' jobs, or any major decisions they've taken about helping the students getting to the job market, or any decisions they've taken to improve upon their academic performance or their course satisfaction? Obviously, during the year, the management of the university must have taken a lot of decisions, right, to improve upon the course satisfaction, or to improve upon the employability, or to improve upon the graduation rate, right? So can we have the board minutes, review the board minutes to confirm any major decisions taken by the university regarding jobs, academic performance, etc. So I'm just trying to fit every point in context, just to guide you that this can be possible. But don't just force any point. Don't just force any point. I'm trying to find an example with Rothko University. Okay, this is a point. Can I relate this point with Rothko University? Are you getting my message? Don't try to force the point. If it is not possible, ignore it. But I'm trying to ask myself a question. Can it be possible to connect this point with Rothko University? And if it is possible, connect it. Okay, let's look at the next point of the examiner. Examiner says confirmation to the source document. Look at the source documents, confirm the source documents. Okay, let's see, are there any source documents? 85% is the graduation rate. So can I see the results, the summaries of the results which the university published to check what is the graduation rates? 85% is the graduation rate. So can I see the results, the result list of the university to confirm the graduation rate? 70% is the course satisfaction. Can I see the feedback forms? The feedback forms as a source document to confirm that 70% students are satisfied with the university. So can I see some source documents like the feedback form, review the feedback forms to confirm the accuracy, of 70% course satisfaction? Is it possible? Right, next. Then the examiner says you can do the recalculation. You can do the recalculation. So can we recalculate the number of students who graduated? 85%. Can we recalculate 85% here? If we know the total number of students who are in the degree program and how many students passed, so can we divide the total number of students who passed among the total students to find that 85% was the graduation rate? So can we recalculate the 85%? So can we do this last procedure? Recalculate the graduation rate. Recalculate the graduation rate. I'm taking this as an example, right? Recalculate the graduation rate, that is the total number of students graduated, into the total number of students in the degree program, total number of students in the degree program. So can it divide the total number of students who graduated into the total number of students in the degree program to find out the percentage, 85%? Now see what I did. I go to the exam hall and I know what the examiner has written in the article. Examiner has written in the article that you can do a test of control. I tried fitting the test of control to a university. Examiner says you can do analysis. I tried fitting analysis to the university. Examiner says you can do discuss. I tried fitting discuss to the university. Examiner said review the board minutes. I tried fitting board minutes to a university. Examiner said that you need to look at the source document. I fitted the source document to the university. And then the examiner said recalculate. I fitted the recalculation to a university. So, but please, fitting to the university does not means forcefully if it is logical. I was just explaining, I was just giving an example just to guide you how you can pick up a point from the examiner article and relate that with a case study. Can this also help you in making procedures in exam paper? But will you forcefully apply the list? Will you forcefully apply the list? Will you forcefully apply the list? Are you getting the message? Did I did the procedures in the last question differently? Donations and 800 free flights. That is another way, right? That is another way. This is another way. So have I shown you two ways of doing procedures? One for donations and the free flights, and one for this question. Now remember one thing. Procedures for audit of performance information given in the article. The article says that the procedures can be test of controls, T, analytical procedure A, discussion with management D, minutes of the meeting M, source document S, and recalculation R. TADMSR. T is the test of control, A is the analytical procedure, D is the discussion, M is the minutes, S is the source document, and R is the recalculation. But should we adapt them to circumstances? Adapt to case? Is it easier? So whichever way you like, this way or the previous way, where we were attempting a question on social and environmental performance. But is everyone getting the track of writing procedures? Is everyone clear on writing procedures? Because that's exactly what has to come in forensic. Yes, exactly. Mevish, Asim, you can do the same thing in the previous question, right? I tried doing it in two different ways, Mevish, so that you can understand which one you like the most and which one you want to do in the exam paper. You can do it in the either way, right? You can do it in the either way. Depends upon you and depends upon how you see the case study in the exam context, right? So because in the case of forensic, we need to apply procedures. Do you all understand forensic also includes procedures? So if you are good on procedures, procedures can come anywhere in the paper, right? Procedures can come anywhere in the paper. So is everyone getting clear on writing procedures? Because we need to do the same exercise in forensic as well, right? Okay, let's just do a 2 minutes exercise on the next topic, forensic, because that's the time is that will be the time for the break then. And after the break, we'll be starting on with forensic. We're completing the first topic, which is audit of performance information. And after the break, we'll be doing the forensic, but I'm just making a structure for forensic. Christina, The example for relevance is the stakeholder. For example, look at this university. The university is uh, publishing the graduation rates, the academic performance, the course satisfaction. Will this be relevant to? Will this be relevant for the students who wants to take admission in the university in future? If any student wants to take admission in the university in future, will he be looking at the graduation rate and the course satisfaction of the university before he joins it? So relevance means that the information you are publishing meets the expectation of the stakeholders. So who are stakeholders of the university? The potential students, the prospective students. Even if it is a public sector university, then for a public sector university, the government itself is a stakeholder. So the information you are publishing should meet the expectation of the stakeholders. So is everyone clear on audit of performance information? Again, please, I would be looking for your feedback in the next 1 minute. 1 hour ago, when we started this topic, audit of performance information, now 1 hour later, are you in a better position to capture this topic for exam paper, but you still need to read the article? Are you getting the better temperament of this area, audit of performance information? You still need to do the June 17 question, right? You still need to do the June 17 question on the hospital on the same track. So when you do the hospital question back at home, remember the T, the A, the D, the M, the S, the R, and link this with the hospital. See what is the source document in a hospital. See, can you do a test of controls in the hospital? See, can you do the analytical procedure in the hospital? Try to read that. But yes, you need to read the article, right? First read the article and then do the June 17 question, right? First read the article and then do the June 17 question. That will be a better way for you to preparing yourself for audit of performance information. But is everyone clear on this topic? Are you gaining confidence in this topic? Do you think this is a doable topic? You can do it in the exam paper. You can do better if it comes in September exams. We are not sure of that. Okay, that's great. Okay, now that also means that we're getting onto a break now. And post break, I'll be starting on with forensic. It's time for a break, an approximately 15 minutes break. And I'll be resuming back at 7:32 p.m. The Pakistan Standard Time. And post break, again, we are looking into procedures in context of forensic. I just need to build some fundamentals of forensic after the break. And then after, we'll be starting on with the exercise on forensic so that by in the next phase of the session, you're very clear on handling forensic, right? And again, if I have time, I'll be spending quick 10 to 15 minutes on the new article, which is a current issue article on data analytics. I hope you all must have downloaded this new article from the website and you all have started to read this article because it's utmost important for exams in September. So please make ensure that you all do read the article on data analytics, right? So off to a break and I'll see you live in next 15 minutes with the start of forensic. Okay, welcome back after the break. Before the break, I was looking at the audit of performance information, and now post break, I am looking at the forensic audit. Now, right in front of your screen, you can see the questions I will be doing on the forensic, which is on the left hand side of your screen, which is right here. I've purposely chosen two questions for forensic, one which will give you an idea about writing procedures, and secondly, a question which will give you an idea of what we did yesterday, ethical and professional issues. Because in forensic, examiner has tested ethical and professional issues only once in the December 11 exam. So if there is any reoccurrence, and what if the reoccurrence happens in your exam setting where the examiner gives you a question on forensic, but the forensic question involves the ethical and professional issues. So you should be having a good idea about that side as well. Okay, let's first open this topic, forensic, in terms of understanding, and then start on exercising the past papers. Now, in terms of this topic, which is forensic, what we need to understand from this topic first, I've chosen two types of questions, right, which comes on forensic. Rather, when you look at these two types of questions, the question tends to focus on three very important things. Number one, when a question comes on forensic and you look at the question requirements from the past paper, perhaps it's easier to understand that the question has been divided into three parts in the past. The question on forensic has focused on ethical and professional issues. That was once, but you should know that. The question on forensic has focused on the planning matters. The planning matters you should take into account when you are planning the engagement for forensic, planning the engagement. So, and the last thing, which is a more regular feature, is procedures. I need to give you three dimensions on this topic so that you know how to do planning of forensic, you know what are ethical and professional issues for planning. And obviously, procedure is a more regular feature now in our discussion in this webinar, knowing the ASP and connecting the ASP with the case study. Okay, now all of you know what an ethical issue is and what a professional issue is. We had a sizable discussion yesterday on the second day. I will not be going into the basics of that, but we need to connect this with the situation, which is forensic. Now, just before starting on with this table, we should be very clear first that when we speak of forensic, the forensic number one is an investigation into a fraudulent activity. And being an investigation, there is no assurance. So you will not give reasonable assurance or moderate assurance. Forensic is an investigation which has no assurance. This is basically a fact finding. This is a fact finding investigation. This is a fact finding investigation into a fraudulent activity. Into a fraudulent activity. Into a fraudulent activity that is investigating number one, who did it, how it happened, and the amount of loss because of that fraudulent activity. So this is not a moderate assurance engagement or a reasonable assurance engagement. This is basically a no assurance engagement. It is the investigation into a fraudulent activity. It is a fact finding investigation in which the auditor needs to investigate a fraud, who did it, how it happened, and the amount of loss. These are three good procedures, right? Who did it, how it happened, and amount of loss. So you can understand the scope of investigation, right? This is also the scope of investigation. You can understand this as your scope, right? Now, when you look at forensic, offering forensic, offering forensic to your existing audit client in an exam paper can create ethical problems. We know this has been a very regular topic of the AAA exams that you are you need to offer a service to your existing audit client. And when you offer any service to your existing audit client, there are many ethical issues that you need to consider. So in an exam context, if your existing audit client, there is a fraud in the existing audit client, and the existing audit client wants you to investigate that fraud, what ethical issues will be arising from the given situation? So offering forensic to your existing client, and you need to think about ethical issues and professional issues into the context, right? And then the last thing you should be knowing about forensic is procedures in context of case. And then last, you should be knowing about the planning matters in planning and investigation, in planning a forensic investigation, in planning a forensic investigation. Okay, now that's the structure, right? Now, first of all, when we look at offering forensic to your existing audit client, and you go to the article which has been written on forensic, right? This is a detailed article which has been written on forensic accounting right in front of your screen. Please do read this article. Firstly, this article has not been written by the examining team. This has been written by a freelance lecturer. So knowledge is good in this article, right? You can take good knowledge on the subject matter from this article, and you can be really good on forensic accounting understanding from an examination point of view. Now, when you go down this article, you will get a very specific paragraph in this article which focus on ethical and professional issues right here in front of your screen, right? I'll be reading this article and I'll be stopping and discussing and making notes so that we can apply that to an exam situation. Keep your focus on the very first paragraph. It says, the range of ethical and professional issues will be familiar to any other type of engagement, as we were discussing yesterday. However, the importance of ethics is arguably much greater in relation to forensic accountancy. Do you believe that when we are conducting an investigation, which is a fact-finding investigation, we need to be more independent? Because he's saying ethics is arguably much greater in relation to forensic accountancy. So do you understand that sentence of the writer, that he says that ethics here has to be more stronger? Then it continues saying, often both sides will bring an expert witness to the hearing where they do not agree. Expert witness, expert witness. Who is an expert witness? Who saw the crime, who saw the crime happening. Now see, auditor can also be an expert witness, right? Because when the auditor go for investigation, the auditor will gather evidence, who did it, how it happened. So auditor can also become an expert witness, right? Auditor can also become an expert witness because auditor must have gathered evidence, right? So on the basis of gathering evidence, you might become an expert witness. Who did it? How it happened? So will the auditor be an expert after gathering evidence, knowing who did it and knowing how it happened? Right? So try to understand the second line, then you get to the third line. The decision maker must decide which evidence they prefer. The credibility of the witness is often the primary factor. The credibility of the witness is often the primary factor on which they can base the decision. And the credibility of an accountant is reliant on their compliance with fundamental ethical principles. So in a case study, We are accountant, right? In a case study, we are an expert witness. So being an expert witness and being an accountant, we should apply the ethical principle to us. Let's see what ethical principles. You go to the next paragraph and now be very careful. Now be very careful. It says, in the exam, you will also need to note whether the client requesting the forensic accounting service is an audit client. You will also need to know whether the client requesting the forensic accounting service is an audit client. And in all the cases so far on forensic in the past paper, it is an existing audit client. You will also need to note whether the client requesting the forensic accounting service is an audit client. Then the person says, if so, this will present an additional and particularly important threat, which is a self-reviewed threat. And then he justifies why there is a self-review threat. So if it is an existing audit client and an existing audit client is asking you to perform a forensic investigation service, it will give rise to a self-review threat. Now see this reason very carefully. The investigation is likely to involve the quantification of the amount of loss. So when we are conducting the investigation, will we determine the amount of loss due to fraud? Is that true? Who did it, how it happened, amount of loss? So when we are conducting the investigation, under the investigation, will we quantify the amount, quantification of the amount, which will then be reviewed as part of the financial statement audit. So when we come to investigation, we will quantify the amount of loss. This amount of loss will become part of the financial statement, true or false? This amount of quantification will become part of the financial statement, true? And later, when we come for the audit, will it create a self-review threat? Will the auditor be reluctant to audit the amount? Will the auditor be reluctant to audit the amount, knowing this amount has been calculated by the audit firm? So the significance of the threat will be affected by the materiality of the amount. So in the exam, you need to see whether the amount is material or not, affected by the materiality of the amount, and the subjectivity involved in quantifying. Now, the rule of the thumb is very simple. If the amount of loss is material, if the amount of loss is material, then the code of conduct says it is prohibited for an auditor to offer forensic investigation service to your existing client if the existing client is a listed company. Try to understand this and write it down somewhere. If your existing client bracket a listed company has approached you to offer a forensic accounting service, has approached you to offer a forensic accounting service and has concluded that the amount of loss due to fraud is significant, can the audit firm offer a forensic accounting service? The code of conduct says if your existing audit client, which is a listed company, has approached you to offer a forensic accounting service and has concluded that the amount of loss due to fraud is significant, can the audit firm offer a forensic accounting service to the existing client, which is a listed company? The code of conduct says no, this is prohibited. You cannot offer this. But yes, then the vice versa, if the amount is immaterial, or if the amount is insignificant, can we offer it? Then it becomes permissible with two different teams. We should have two different teams, right? Because there is a self-review threat. So for a self-review threat, we should have two different teams. Is everyone clear on this situation, that if your existing client, being a listed company, has approached you to offer a forensic accounting service and the amount of loss is significant, can the audit firm offer a forensic accounting service? No. And if the amount is insignificant, can we offer it? Yes. And if the client is non-listed, then what can we do in the exam paper? Then we have no problem, right? If the client is non-listed, whether the amount is material or whether the amount is immaterial, when the client is non-listed, right? When the client is non-listed, right? Write it down as very clearly. When the client is non-listed, amount is material or the amount is immaterial. No problems, no problems. It is permissible with two different teams. It is permissible with two different teams. So is everyone clear on the situation of a listed company and a non-listed company? Right, now let's look at a situation before I take you further. If you look at this exam paper, which we have to do today in the session for forensic, just to support my point, can you see the first paragraph of this question? It says, Kennel and Company, a firm of chartered certified accountant, is the external audit provider for the Retriever Group. The group, a manufacturer of the mobile phone and laptops. The group obtained listing in July 12. So is it a listed company, Retriever Group? Do you all agree Retriever Group is a listed company? Okay. Now see what is happening. It is a listed company. Now you go down. And now see this. The audit committee of the group, I'm reading the first paragraph, right? The audit committee of the group has contacted Kennel. Kennel is the auditor, right? To discuss the incident that took place on the 1st of June. On that date, there was a theft at the warehouse where inventory is stored prior to dispatch. So the audit committee has contacted us, the auditor, because there is a theft in the warehouse, right? Now see this last paragraph. It is thought that the amount of the claim will be immaterial. It is thought that the amount of the claim will be immaterial to the group financial statement, and there is no ethical threat in Kennel and Company Forensic Accounting Department providing the forensic accounting service. See, did you got a conclusion? The audit committee is saying that the amount of the loss because of the theft, the amount of loss because of the theft is immaterial, so the audit firm can provide the service. And had the amount of the loss be material, then what we should have done in the exam paper is everyone getting the last paragraph in focus? The audit committee themselves is saying that the amount of loss is immaterial. So can we provide this service to a listed company? Yes. And had it been material, can we provide the service to a listed company? No. So please be very clear. So in this situation, can we provide the forensic service to our client, which is the Retriever Group? Yes, with safeguards, right? Ashad Siddiqui, everyone is giving me a yes answer. Ashad, you're giving me a no answer. The amount is immaterial, right? The amount is immaterial. So can we provide the forensic accounting service to a client when the amount is immaterial by making two different teams? We just discussed that, right? Then why? Because one of the student is saying a no answer, which is causing me a distraction, right? But apart from that, every student is saying a yes answer, which is perfectly fine. Audit committee is the custodian of auditors' independence. Audit committee comprised of non-executive directors. We need to trust them. Audit committee, right? Audit committee is the custodian of the independence. The problem with the students is that where they need not to be skeptical, they are over skeptical. And where they should be skeptical, they're not skeptical. So is the audit committee giving us the permission that we can offer this service because the amount is immaterial? So is that wonderfully right? We can continue the service with the client? Yes, right? Okay, let's go back to the list. So we were reading the article, right? So is everyone clear with the paragraph in the article that the self-review threat can be a major threat if it is an existing audit client, and we need to see whether the amount of loss is immaterial, we can offer the service, right? Now look at the last paragraph. It says, remember that the decision to prosecute is a matter of the client. Whether the client wants to take the culprit to the court, remember that the decision to prosecute is a matter for the client. Often, client do not want to prosecute for fear of damaging their reputation. Do you agree with that statement? So whether the company wants to prosecute the employee or the culprit is a matter for the company to decide. But normally the company don't want to prosecute because they have a fear that their reputation will be damaged in the court, right? The forensic accountant can provide the client with the analysis of all the facts. Is that true? The forensic accountant can provide the client with analysis of all the fact, who did it, how it happened, and the amount of loss. Do you agree with that? Okay, but must not make the decision to prosecute. Can the accountant take a decision to prosecute the employee? No. Who has to take a decision to prosecute the employee? The management. If the accountant takes a decision to prosecute, see what is the person saying? It's saying it is a management threat. It is a management threat to objectivity. Do you agree we are stepping into the shoes of the management if we decide to prosecute the employee? Is the accountant the right person to decide to prosecute? And if the accountant decide to prosecute, is the accountant stepping into the shoes of the management? Is the accountant stepping into the shoes of the management if he decides to prosecute? Is that a management threat? Right? The forensic accountant has a duty of confidentiality unless it is in the public interest to do so. So they must not disclose the fraud to any third party, including the police, without client permission. Because when you are conducting an investigation as an accountant, do you have confidential information, who did it, how it happened, and amount of loss? As an accountant, do you have confidential information? So will you release this confidential information, or are you binded by the ethical principle of confidentiality? So do you believe confidentiality is also important when you're conducting a forensic investigation? Do you believe confidentiality is important when you're conducting a forensic investigation? So what has been covered in this article? Has they covered an issue of self-review threat? Have they covered an issue of management threat? Have they covered an issue of confidentiality? Where have we got these three? We got these three from the article. Now, do everyone know self-review threat and why? Was the answer clear in the article? Is everyone clear of the management threat and why? Is the answer given in the article? And is everyone clear on the confidentiality and why? Okay. Then add something different. When we are conducting the forensic investigation, do forensic investigation requires us to be more competent, more experienced into conducting forensic investigation? Do you believe professional competence can also be a concern factor? Do we need to be more professionally qualified, more professionally competent? And what about our behavior? Should we be more skeptical? Do we demonstrate more due care? More due care when we are conducting the forensic investigation? So, do you believe professional competence can also be a concern factor in the exam paper? Professional competence and due care when we are conducting a forensic investigation? And do you also believe there is a greater need of professional behavior when we are conducting the forensic investigation? Yes, professional behavior. So is everyone clear in the very first column? Can we connect the first column with the exam paper, self-review threat, management threat, confidentiality, or we forcefully apply them? Do we forcefully apply the list, or we'll try connecting the case to see whether there is a self-review, whether there is a management threat, whether there is a confidentiality, whether there is a professional competence, or there is a professional behavior, right? Okay, let's do a case study on that. Let's do a case study on that. There is a question we need to do on this very first day on ethical and professional issues. Let's show you that. This is the December 11 question, right? This is a December 11 question right in front of you, which is on ethical and professional issue, right? Now, when you see this question and you go down, can you see this first requirement? Assess the ethical and professional issues raised by the request for your firm to investigate the alleged fraudulent activity. Is everyone familiar with ethical and professional issue from the session yesterday? How to write them down? So the examiner is saying assess the ethical and professional issues raised by the request for your firm to investigate the fraudulent activity. So we have got a request for forensic. We have 6 marks, right? Let's go down and start to read where is the ethical and professional issue. You are an audit manager in Sitar and Company, responsible for the audit of Chestnut Company, a large company which provides information technology service to business customer. The finance director of Chestnut, Jack, contacted you this morning. So the client is Chestnut, right? Is Chestnut a listed company? Is Chestnut a listed company? No, it says it's a large company, but is it a listed company? So can we provide forensic accounting service to this company, whether it is material or whether it is immaterial? Do you all agree with that? Okay. Now Jack, who's the finance director, has contacted us this morning. Let's see why he contacted us. I was alerted to a fraud being conducted by the members of our sales team. It appears that several sales representatives have been claiming reimbursement for fictitious travel and client entertainment expenses and inflating actual expenses. Specifically, it has been alleged that the sales representative have claimed on expenses for items such as gifts for clients and office supplies, which were never actually purchased, claimed for business class airline ticket, but in reality had purchased economy tickets, claimed for non-existent business mileage and used the company credit card to purchase items for personal use. So what is the fraud here? The sales team is misusing the resources of the company, right? They are incurring personal expenditures. They're incurring personal expenditures and they're claiming them as business expenditures, right? So Jack is very much concerned about the fraud which is taking place in the organization, and he's discussing this fraud with the auditors. Then comes the next paragraph. I am worried about the scale of this fraud. So does he know the scale of the fraud? Does he know, is it material or is it immaterial? No. Is he worried about the scale of the fraud? He is. As travel and client is one of our biggest expenses. Now, if travel and client is one of our biggest expenses, so do you believe the scale of fraud can be bigger? Because it relates to one of the biggest expenses, right? So can it be a significant amount of fraud here? It can be, right? All of the fraudster have been suspended pending an investigation. So the whoever was the fraudster, the company has suspended them, which I would like your firm to conduct, and they want our firm to conduct the investigation. We will prosecute these employees. So is there a management threat? Is there a management threat? Who is prosecuting? The accountant is saying the accountant is saying to prosecute, or the management is saying to prosecute. Is that right? There is no management threat, right? We will prosecute these employees to attempt to recoup our losses if evidence shows that fraud has indeed occurred. So your firm will need to provide an expert witness in the event of the court. So management wants us to appear in the court, right, as an expert witness because we have gathered evidence. So should we maintain confidentiality of the information till the time we go to the court? Should we maintain confidentiality of the information till the time we go to the court? Okay. Can we meet tomorrow to discuss this potential assignment? So Jack is saying, can we meet tomorrow to discuss this assignment? Okay, let's go on. Chestnut has a small internal audit department, and in previous year, the evidence obtained by Sedar and Company as part of the external audit has indicated that the control environment of the company is generally good. The audit opinion on the financial statement for the year ended 31st of March was unmodified. So have we concluded that the control of the company are good when we were conducting the audit as an auditor? Have we concluded that the controls of the companies are good when we were conducting this audit? Yes. Now, if controls were good, how did the fraud took place? That means the controls were not good. Is it calling us? Is it calling um, a question mark on the way the external audit was done the last time? Because the external auditor concluded that the controls are good. But if the controls were good, then how did the fraud took place? So are you understanding the last paragraph? As an auditor, we concluded that the controls were good, right? But if the controls were good, then how did this fraud took place? Okay, now you've read the case, right? Ethical and professional issues. December 11. Let's start on December 11 and let's go down drilling the answer for December 11. December 2011, question number 4. Ethical and professional issues. Okay, number 1. Is there a self-review threat? Do you all agree? Because the amount of loss that will be determined by the audit firm will become a component of the financial statement which will later be audited by the same firm, and the auditor will be reluctant to review the amount in the financial statement. So do you agree that we need to write threat and why it is a threat? Threat and why it is a threat. Number two, is there a self-interest threat? Are we generating extra income from our client in terms of fees if we offer this service? So income generated from our existing audit client, income generated from our existing audit client, income generating from our existing audit client. Do you agree this is a self-interest threat? Income generated from our existing audit client is a self-interest. Okay. Is there an advocacy threat? Expert witness in the court. If we represent the company in the court, are we promoting the business interest of the company? Are we advocating the client? But is it allowed to advocate the client in a forensic investigation? Is it allowed? Yes. But will we write the issue in the exam paper first? Will we tell examiner that court appearing in the court is an advocacy threat? But then we will tell examiner that this is permissible, that this is permissible. Do you all agree with that? So will we tell examiner the issue, then the action? So advocacy threat, appearing as an expert witness in the court, that is promoting the client interest, because the client wants us to get to the court and appear as a witness, so we are promoting the client interest. That is an advocacy threat slash. However, this is permissible as it is part of forensic investigation, as it is part of forensic investigation. Okay, do you believe there is an issue of confidentiality as well in this case study? Confidentiality. The audit firm needs to maintain confidentiality. Till when? Audit firm needs to maintain confidentiality till the matter is presented in the court. Till the matter is presented in court. So should we maintain confidentiality till the time the matter has been presented in the court? So do we have confidentiality issues? Okay. Is there an issue in this question which relates with due care, the last year audit where we concluded that controls were effective? Is it calling a question mark on our due care that we didn't exercise due care in the last year audit? Do you believe that the due care is lacking that because we concluded last time that the controls are effective? Were the controls effective? Because there is a fraud going on in the company and salary is the biggest expense. So does that mean that the auditor has not been careful? Due care, right? Due care is a better thing here. Due care means that we were not being skeptical or we were not being very diligent. We were not diligent, right? We were not diligent. We were not skeptical, right? So due care, the last year audit where we concluded that controls were effective brings a question mark, on the way the audit was conducted previously, the way the audit was conducted previously. Is that true? It brings a question mark on the way the audit was done previously. Is that right? Okay, and the last thing, do the firm have specialized knowledge to perform forensic investigation? Do you believe performing a forensic investigation requires a specialized knowledge? Do the firm have specialized knowledge to perform forensic investigation? Because such an engagement needs professional competence. So have we got to 6 bullets? And 6 bullets means how many marks have we gained? 6. So is everyone clear on the marking scheme? Is everyone clear why we wrote self-review? Need quick answers. Is everyone clear why we wrote self-review? Okay. Is everyone clear why we wrote self-interest? Is everyone clear why we wrote advocacy, confidentiality, due care, and specialized knowledge? So being the forensic can be provided, the forensic can be provided to our audit client by having two different teams, because it is a Muhammad Ali Khan. Why am I writing the answer in bullets? I'm writing the answer in bullets because to save time, right? Can we write answer in bullets in exam paper? Not at all. Why am I writing the answer in bullet? Because it's a session where I need to fit many things in 3 hours, right? So forensic can be provided to our audit client by having two different teams because it is a non-listed company. So is everyone clear on the ethical and professional issues? Okay, let's go to the second thing. The second thing we need to discuss is planning. Planning a forensic investigation service. Planning a forensic investigation service. Do you know what are fundamentals of planning journal? Because planning is part of audit, right? And planning is part of every service. Planning is part of every service. So do you all know the basic fundamentals of planning, irrespective we are planning the forensic investigation or we are planning the audit? Let's first have an understanding of the planning fundamentals. Planning consists of number one, scope, planning for scope, planning for timing, planning for direction, and planning for resources. This is basic planning, right? This is basic planning: scope, timing, direction, resources. Whether we are doing planning of a audit or we are doing planning of a non-audit, like a forensic investigation, planning consists of scope, timing, direction, resources. So whenever the auditor performs planning, the auditor performs planning for scope, timing, direction, resources. Plus, when the auditor is performing planning, the auditor should also gather knowledge of the business. Is that true? Does planning needs knowledge of business? Gather knowledge of business, knowledge of the systems, knowledge of the policies, knowledge of the controls. Is that essential for us to do um, the planning? Right? Audit strategy, right? Audit strategy is part of audit planning. Scope, timing, direction, resources is part of audit strategy, and audit strategy is part of audit planning, right? So is it clear to all of you how to go down with planning? Is it clear to all of you how to go down with planning? So planning consists of scope, timing, direction, resources, gather knowledge of business, system policies, controls, etc. Now see, how this comes in an exam paper, exactly what the examiner asks you when he raises a question on planning a forensic investigation service. Can I just go into the exam hall with 1, 2, 3, 4 and gather knowledge and do apply the same thing to the exam paper? Not at all, right? Let's see how this has been tested. If I just give you a glimpse of how this gets tested, first taking you to another question, then bringing you back to this question we were discussing. This is another question on forensic investigation. We were just discussing this one, the listed company. You all remember Retriever being a listed company, and the audit committee is saying that the amount is immaterial so that you can provide the service, right? Can you see the requirements of this question? It says this, look at this first requirement. Look at this first requirement. It says, in respect of the theft and the insurance claim, identify and explain the methods to be considered and the steps to be taken in planning the forensic accounting service in respect of the theft and the insurance claim. Identify and explain the matters to be considered and the steps to be taken in planning the forensic accounting service. And examiner is saying the total marks are 12 and the marks are split equally. So we have 6 marks for the first requirement. So we have 6 marks for this requirement. Let's write it down on a Word file and try to understand this. There was a question in the exam paper June 13, the question number 2B and 2B1, and the 2B1 says, in respect of theft and insurance claim, identify and explain the matters to be considered, comma, and the steps in planning the forensic accounting service, and the steps in planning the forensic accounting service. So is the examiner asking us two things here? Forensic accounting service. And we have how many marks for this? 6 marks. So is the examiner asking us two things here? Identify and explain the matters to be considered. And can you see this word here? And is breaking it, right? So and is breaking it into two things. Identify and explain the matters to be considered and the steps in planning. So can I just save my time here and draw a table? And in the table, I have two things. One part of the table is the matters, and the other part of the table is the steps in planning. How many marks should I ideally keep for both? Because there is a 6 marks for the whole question, and there is the word and coming in the middle. So should I keep 3 marks for matters and 3 marks for planning? Now, examiner is saying in respect of theft and in respect of the insurance claim, identify the matters to be considered. So are we considering the matters for theft and insurance claim? Are we considering the matters for theft and insurance claim? Right? Are you getting this point? Are we considering the matters for theft and insurance claim? Right? So which matters? For theft. For theft, what sort of matters will I be considering? Should I be considering for theft matters who did um, who did the fraud, or who was the suspect? Who was the suspect? Who stolen inventory from the warehouse? Who stolen inventory from warehouse? Will this all be the matters which I have in my mind? Will these be the questions which comes into my mind? Right? Planning is in the next column, right? First, we are thinking about the matters. If there is a theft in a company, what will come to my mind? What will come to my mind? Who did it? Who was the suspect? Who stolen the inventory? Um, were the controls effective? Were the controls effective? Because if the controls were effective, then how did the fraud took place? So are these all the questions which should pop in the mind when we are looking at a theft, that who did the theft and were the controls good or were the controls weak? And then about the insurance claim. Are we concerned about the amount of claim? Amount of claim. Will it be material or immaterial? Will it be material? The audit committee is saying the amount of claim will be immaterial. So do we need to know the basis of the audit committee? Basis of the audit committee conclusion? Because the audit committee is concluding that the amount of the claim will be immaterial. So do we need to have the basis of the audit committee, that on what basis are they concluding that the amount is immaterial? So what are matters? Matters are the questions. Matters are the questions which pop in your mind in the exam paper. That what sort of things will come to your mind when you think about theft? What sort of things will come to your mind when you think about insurance claim? So is everyone getting the concern point here? Matters. Matters are the questions which comes to your mind in an exam paper when you are looking at a theft and when you're looking at the insurance claim, right? Obviously, you are also concerned about the validity of the insurance policy. It is given in the exam paper, the insurance policy is valid, right? Validity of insurance policy. So is everyone becoming clear how to go down with this? Yes, theft. Uh, was the police informed? Was the police informed as another matter for theft? Was the police informed? Has there been theft in the past in the company? Has there been theft in past in the company? In past in the company? Has there been theft in the past in the company? So any question which pops in your mind or pop up in your mind regarding theft, or any question which pop in your mind regarding insurance claim, is what you need to write as matters. Now, how many matters are you writing? You're writing 3 matters in para form, in para form, 1 mark per matter, 1 mark per matter, and you make up 3 paragraphs. Now you make more paragraphs for theft and less for insurance, or you make more for insurance and less for theft, but you need to write 3 matters in a para form. Is that clear to everyone? Yes, one of the student, Christina, is saying that we should become a bit of Sherlock Holmes. Yes, that's how you conduct the forensic investigation, right? That's true. That's true. You need to be an investigator. You need to think skeptically. You need to think skeptically. So when you think skeptically, that's how you can identify the matters, right? So you need to become Sherlock Holmes, right? No doubt about that. Okay, steps in planning an accounting service. So when I am planning a forensic investigation service, should I be firstly concerned about gaining knowledge about, because the theft happened in the inventory warehouse, right? Theft happened in the inventory warehouse. It is a theft of the inventory. It is a theft of an inventory, right? Remember that. So should I be gaining knowledge about the inventory systems and controls as my step in planning? Should I know how good these systems are? Gaining knowledge about inventory systems and controls at the warehouse to know how good the systems are as my step in planning? Gaining knowledge about the inventory systems and controls at the warehouse, gaining knowledge about the personals involved in inventory. Should I be gaining knowledge about the personals involved in inventory system? Because that can really help me down with identifying who did it. That's first point, right? Second point, steps in planning. Determine the deadlines, determine the deadlines and construct a timetable to achieve the deadline. Construct a timetable to achieve the deadlines and to produce the report of investigation within the suitable time, within the suitable time. So do you believe timing? We also plan for timings, planning for timings, scope, timing, direction, resources. We plan for knowledge. We plan for timetables. Timetable is a very fundamental, right? Is a very important fundamental, right? Of Planning process. Should we also plan for our resources and for our resources? Taking specialized resources, taking specialized resources for conducting investigation. Resources should be picked from the firm forensic accounting department. The question, it has been written in the question, right? It has been written in the question that they have a forensic accounting department. So resources should be picked from the forensic accounting department. So they are specialized. So is resources part of planning? Do we plan for resources? Do we plan for timings? Do we plan for knowledge? We also plan for scope, right? Should we plan for our resource? Should we planning for scope of investigation? Should we plan for our scope of investigation? Planning for the scope of investigation as to what we should be doing. Example, the procedures. Examples, the procedures we should be carrying out. Examples, the procedures to be carried out. Do we plan for our procedures at the planning stage? Do we plan for our substantive procedures at the planning stage? Do we plan for test of controls at the planning stage? Is that part of planning, right? Example, the procedures to be carried out. So do you understand how to go down with planning? If you know the fundamentals of planning, scope, timing, direction, resources, how many paragraphs we need to write for gaining 3 marks? 3. I've written 4 for the sake of knowledge. So is everyone clear on matters for theft and insurance claim? Is that clear with everyone? And is everyone clear on steps in planning? Is everyone clear on steps in planning? Okay, so uh, look at this table here. Do everyone know what are ethical and professional issues when a question comes on forensic? And where will you capture this? You will capture this from the article, right? Do you know how to plan an engagement? To plan an engagement, we need scope, we need timings, we need direction, and we need resources, and we need knowledge, knowledge of the business. And procedures, ASP, procedures, adaptive, adaptive to case. Do you all know those procedures? How to go down with procedures? Irrespective of the topic which comes in the exam paper, procedures, adaptive. You need to understand one thing, that when you read this article on forensic, please spend time on reading this heading, fundamental ethical principles from the article, because that can really help you in the exam paper. When you're reading this article, there is a heading in the article which is about planning. See this heading? Can all of you see this heading, planning? Will you read this heading, planning? Will this really help you draft an answer on planning a forensic investigation? So will you read this heading, planning? And will you also read this heading in the forensic accounting article, which is on procedures and evidence? Did you saw procedures in the other article, audit of performance information? And can you see the procedures in this article even? So will you read this paragraph on procedure from this article? How many paragraphs are you reading from this article? One on procedure, one on planning, and one on ethical and professional issues. These 3 paragraphs are must. These 3 paragraphs are must, right? So please ensure you read these 3 paragraphs. One is planning, which is on page number 3, planning. Then on procedures and evidence, which is on page number 4. then on ethical and professional issues, which is on page number 5. So please read the page number 3, page number 4, and page number 5 of the handout, which has been shared with you in the resources. Is everyone clear with that? So will you be able to handle a question on forensic, which asks for ethical and professional issues, which asks for the matters to be considered in planning and procedures? Is everyone sound on that? I have already covered forensic in my previous webinar. So if you want to go down and practice more, see this webinar here on the screen, which is right here, my March 18 webinar. And in my March 18 webinar, I have done forensic. So you can revise more forensic from there. And I've already done the audit of performance information in my webinar in December 18. So you can go down looking at the December 18 webinar, right? So is everyone clear on this? Can I spend the remaining 20 minutes on something very special, apart from discussing forensic and audit of performance information, right? So will all of you be preparing yourself for audit of performance information and the forensic audit? Can you give me a feedback quickly before I start with something very special? That has this session been productive in terms of gaining knowledge on forensic and audit of performance information? And has this session really helped you in the last 2 hours? Has it really given you some thinking process, some thought process, some improvements, particularly those who are repeating? Has it given you some thoughts to improve your answers, perform better in September exams and pass the September exams, right? Okay, now something very important. For every exam sitting, as a tutor, it is my responsibility that I look at the technical articles very carefully to ensure that whether the examining team has updated any new technical article. Now, since last 6 to 9 months, it was highly expected that data analytics is an emerging issue, and the examining team will write an article on data analytics somewhere in the coming months. We expected this to happen in March, we expected this to happen in June, but it didn't. And finally, it has happened that on the 7th of August, the examining team wrote an article, published an article on data analytics from the view of a current issue, from the view of how this area can be examined in P7 or an advanced audit and assurance exam. And that means for September 2019 exams, you cannot go into the exam hall without knowing or without reading the article, which is on data analytics. If those of you who have read this article, that is such a layman article, such an easy article. There is no difficulty, there is no complexity in the article, and you can easily understand what is the examining team try to say. I have already covered, I think 6 months ago, on my Facebook page, which is the Advanced Audit and Assurance by Kashif Kamran Facebook page, uh, the data analytics, the benefits of data analytics, how does data analytics improves the quality of the audit. I've already written stuff on that on my Facebook page. You can even access that as well. You need to find my previous post on the Facebook page to get through that. So I had a alertness that this topic will come in the future exams, so I started putting the post on data analytics a couple of months ago. Now, obviously, this is realized and this has become an article, a published article. So this becomes more important for students. Now, I just want to guide you what you should be going through from this article, and which areas you should be exploring and how it can come in your exam paper. If I just show you a glimpse of this article, which you need to download. This is the article right in front of your screen, data analytics and the auditor. And this article is to be read. Now, when you read this article, what exactly you should capture from this article, and how and where it can be tested. Let's first see what to study. When you go down this article, there is a heading number 3, which says, how can data analytics be used by the audit firms? This is the first thing you should read. And in this, because we know that when a new article is tested, the examiner even asks for definition. So examiner can ask you define data analytics. So see the definition given here, which you need to read. This very first paragraph here under this heading says the IAASB defines data analytics. So you have to read this. The IAASB defines data analytics. So read these 3 lines to know the definition of how IAASB has defined data analytics, because examiner has a tendency to ask define data analytics. So you should know how to define it. So this becomes important, right? Then you read this next paragraph, because this next paragraph tells you about how data analytics can be used by the audit firms. So continue reading this paragraph even, and then this paragraph. So all the 3 paragraphs, right, which is under the heading of how the firms can use data analytics, right? Is that clear with everyone? I'm going to the next page, right? This is page number 2 of the article, right? And on the page number 2 of the article, there is a heading, how can data analytics be used by the firm? Read the definition and do understand how can data analytics be used by the firm. Make your notes, right? Make your notes, make your bullets. How can data analytics be used by the firm? Then you get to the next page, and there are 2 lines. How can data analytics be applied by the audit firm? And it completes here. Okay. Then you come across some examples given by the examining teams. And you know the examples given by the examining team cannot be ignored. They're giving examples where data analytics can be used. One example is net realizable value testing, that the auditor can use data analytics when he's comparing the cost with the net realizable value. So what if the examiner gives you a question on inventory and asks you that how can data analytics be used in a net realizable value testing? So the examples, think skeptically. How can these examples connect to your exam paper? Number 2 example, analysis of revenue. So can data analytics help us in analytical procedures, analysis of the revenue trends by product and region? So can there be a connection of data analytics with analytical procedures? Number 3, matching purchase orders with invoices and payments. So can data analytics helps us in substantive procedures, like matching the purchase orders to invoices and payments, right? And can it help us in identifying the segregation of duties by identifying combinations of users involved in processing transactions for the metadata attached to the transaction? Can data analytics help us to understand the systems of the company and to know how many people are involved in a process, how many people initiate a transaction, who initiates a transaction, who authorized the transaction? So can we enter the data of the company, the data of the company, and can we explore the data of the company to identify who initiate the data, who process the data, who authorized the data, right? So examiner is giving us 4 examples, right? NRV testing, analysis of revenue, matching purchase orders, and segregation of duties. Will you keep these 4 examples in mind? Because examiner can connect these somewhere in the case study, somewhere in the case study. Then a very important heading after that is to know the benefits. What are benefits of data analytics? We know that whenever a new article comes in, examiner do ask you the advantages, benefits. Even when CAM, key audit meta, was introduced for the first time, the examiner did ask us the benefits of key audit meta, the advantages of key audit meta. Now, there are so many examples of benefits. How many benefits has the examiner given here? Count the bullets. Number one bullet, number two bullet, number three bullet, number four bullet, number five bullet, number six bullet, number seven. Seven benefits. You cannot just remember all and go to the exam paper. But yes, if you know 3 to 4 benefits, and the question comes in the exam paper, explain the benefits of data analytics. So 3 to 4 benefits on your fingertips, and you can do a wonderful answer. So try to remember 3 to 4 benefits after reading the list of 7, but please make a note of benefits, because easily this can be part of the September 19 exams. What are benefits of data analytics? Then go down next. There are challenges of data analytics. What if the examiner asks you discuss the challenges of data analytics, and the examiner puts a requirement in the exam paper, discuss the challenges of data analytics, 6 marks, for example. So when you need to discuss the challenges of data analytics, examiner has covered so many challenges here. See, 1, 2, go down, 3, go down, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 challenges. Even if you remember 4 of them, half of them, because examiner will not give you all 8 to write. This is not a knowledge paper, right? This is not a knowledge paper. But if the examiner asks you discuss some of the challenges of data analytics, should you know 4 of them at least? So should you know 4 benefits and 4 benefits and 4 challenges? So what exactly you should be knowing from this article going into the exam hall on data analytics? Let's make it on a different page here, so that you can start reading this article. Now, when you're approaching the exam hall with this article now in focused data analytics, what you should be knowing. Number one, should you be knowing the definition of data analytics as given by IAASB? IAASB has given a definition of data analytics. So should you be knowing that? Number two, should you be knowing uh, how audit firm uses data analytics? How audit firms uses data analytics, right? Has the examiner given us some examples of that? Has the examiner given us some examples of how to use data analytics? Yes, four. Four examples, right? Which includes NRV, which includes analysis, which includes segregation of duties, and which includes uh, matching the purchase order with invoicing, matching the purchase order with invoices. Okay, so should we know the benefits of data analytics to an audit firm? Benefits. How many? At least 4. Should we know the challenges? The challenges of data analytics. Again, at least 4 of them. So do you believe that this article covers knowledge, definitions, how the firm used data analytics, benefits, challenges? And those of you who have read this, right, must have realized that this is a knowledge article, right? This is not a technical article. This is a knowledge article. So are we expecting examiner to give you 10 marks in the September 19 exams discussing something about data analytics? right? So a 10 to 12 marks, a 10 to 12 marks in the whole paper, discussing data analytics. It can be part of the question number one. Do data analytics helps us in risk assessment? Do data analytics helps us in performing analytical procedures? Do data analytics helps us in having better knowledge of the client business? So can this be part of the question number one even, risk assessment? Can the examiner ask some knowledge marks in the question number one? And have we seen the current issue coming in the last exam sitting in the question number three? So can the examiner put data analytics in the question number three, right? So do we foresee this article somewhere in September 19 exams for like 10 to 12 marks? And it is such an easy article, right? Reading the definition, reading how the firm uses data analytics, what are benefits of data analytics and what are challenges. I think hardly 1 hour to read, and you will come out so good. 1 hour is maximum you can spend on data analytics, and you should be so good in this area. So will you all do that? Will you all go through this article around the 4 areas I have just mentioned? Right now, that's one realization, right, which I want to discuss today, because I had a time of 15 to 20 minutes, and I thought I should make you realize this new article and going through this new article, and so that you are encouraged and you're benefited from this practice to pass session. Now, tomorrow, when I am meeting you for the fifth and final day, which is basically a day for reporting, and considering that in the last two exam settings, examiner has tested a question on reporting, which is known as the critical appraisal of the audit report. I hope if you are repeating the AAA exam, you must have seen the critical appraisal for few marks, 5 or 6 marks, in the March 19 exams. And you must have seen critical appraisal of the audit report in the June exam for like 10 marks. So expecting critical appraisal in September is like least chances. But getting a typical question on reporting, a typical question on reporting which asks for the impact on audit report, and a typical question on reporting which asks for the going concern matters, or a typical question on reporting which asks for the matters you should be considering, or the actions you should be taking, the typical reporting questions in the last 4 and 5 exam sittings. I will be looking for them in the session tomorrow, right? I will be looking for the types of questions which looks more important for September exams. I will be looking for the types of questions which sounds more important for the September exams in my fifth and the final day tomorrow. Now, when you're approaching your September exams, which are just 3 weeks away, perhaps, has this practice to pass session from the very first day, where we focused on risk, then on the second day we focused on evidence and procedures, then on the third day we looked at the ethical and professional issues, and now on the fourth day we looked at the other assignments and data analytics. Has this been an accumulative helped you so far? Because you need to understand and you need to realize that this is a very important initiative which has been taken by ACCA Pakistan for uh, guiding knowledge to students. Uh, this is a free of cost resource, right, which ACCA Pakistan is giving you. And these 15 hours, which you all take as a free of cost resource, uh, which is going globally in different countries, is this disseminating or is it really helping students grabbing the knowledge? There might be so many students who have no access to tutors. There might be so many students who didn't had time to study, or who didn't had time to get access to a college. So is this free webinar which is being organized by ACCA Pakistan and is going through so many different students globally, helping you with improving the quality of answers you should be writing in the AAA exams, right? So please understand one thing, that whatever you learned in the last 4 days, please try to focus on that. Try to be very clear when you're writing your answers. I've personally seen students that whenever they write their answers are so weak, or their answers are so blur. Uh, the only thing which creates a failure in AAA exam is the writing. And you should learn the way to write. You should learn to make a paragraph which has the problem and which has the reason, which has the issue and the reason, which has the ethical threat and the reason, which has the professional issue and the reason. You should, which has the risk and why, which has an accounting treatment which is very concise. Now, over the 4 days, I've been guiding you on that, how to make a concise answer, a clear answer, a better answer, right? I hope that all is helping you somewhere in improving yourself towards September 19 exams, right? So, just one last reminder that when you're preparing for your exams in September, be sure that you have focused on the core areas. You have focused on the core areas. You have read articles of all core areas. You've read articles of all core areas. At least read the recent at least read the recent 10 articles. At least read the recent 10 articles, which includes the article on data analytics. Go to the ACCA website and see the recent 10 articles from the top. From the top, go down and see the recent 10 articles. Recent 10 articles, right? At least read the recent 10 article. Be clear on the marking scheme. Be clear on the marking scheme, because that's very important. And I hope each day, I have been guiding you on the marking scheme. And the very important thing, plan your answers. Plan your answers. Because in the exam, we don't plan the answers. We don't read the requirement. Have I been very critical over the last 4 days, helping you to know what the requirement is asking? Have I been reading requirements with you and guiding what the requirement literally means? Have you got this message over the last 4 days that how you should be reading the requirements, and how you should be going down, drilling the requirements and identifying how much to write, right? So reading and planning the answer is very, very important, right? It's very, very important. So please try to understand the importance of things which have been emphasized over the last 4 days. And still, we have the fifth and the final day coming tomorrow, which is focused on yet another very important area, that is reporting. And a lot of students are blur on reporting. There are so many misconceptions on reporting, which I need to be clarifying tomorrow on the fifth and the final day, right? So please ensure that the slides which have been shared with you for the sessions, you try to go over these slides, because it just contains the summary of audit of performance information we discussed today, and it contains the summary of forensic accounting we discussed today, right? So these slides have been shared with you. They can become your concise notes. They can become your concise notes for your preparation towards September exams. So I hope you have taken a printout of all this stuff and have maintained a proper file for these resources which have been provided to you. Okay, Arsalan Ahmed is asking, sir, comparison can be intra-industry? Yes, Arsalan Ahmed, it can be intra-industry. You can compare intra-industry comparisons, right? You can compare the current year with the last year. You can compare the company with the industry. You can compare the results, actual results with the budgeted results. So there can be many examples, right, of how you do comparisons. Okay, Purna is asking a question. Sir, how data analytics helps in understanding segregation of duties and learning trends and entries. Uh, Obviously, when data analytics is about entering the client systems, right, is entering the client's computer systems. Now, the computer systems do maintains logs about user IDs. So you know exactly which user initiated the transaction. You know exactly which user processed the transaction. So by entering the client system and knowing the user IDs, you can easily pick from the client systems the segregation of duties. And we know segregation of duties really help the auditor in concluding whether the controls are effective or ineffective. I hope that's clear with your question, Poona, which you raised. Yes, Ashad. Ashad is asking, what about annotating the question paper in first reading? Yes, you should annotate. Whenever you're reading the questions, you should annotate the questions because annotating the questions is very important. But I would not prefer that you're reading the whole 100 marks paper in the first 15 minutes. You should just be reading the first 50 marks in the first 15 minutes. Okay, please can you send me the summaries of IFRS? I've put summaries of IFRS so many times on the WhatsApp group since March 18. Since I started conducting these webinars, I've been putting that so regularly, but still I can put them again on the WhatsApp group. Uh, Karan is asking that apart from the 5 technique articles, which articles are must to do? I just mentioned that, right? First 10 articles. The first 10 articles are must, and every day, Karan, I have been mentioning, every day I've been mentioning the articles to read. So do make a list of that, right? Do make a list of that. NRV is the net realizable value, right? We can do the NRV analysis so good, right, through the data analytics, Ali Chaudhry. We can see how the management has determined the NRV. It can save our time. We can go to the client computer system, right, and see how they have performed the NRV testing, and that can really help us in making the audit more efficient. Yes, exactly, Arsanal Ahmed. They include the session includes those articles. Okay, now this is the time to say you goodbye for the fourth day and meeting you then for the fifth and final day. It was nice to see you all into the live sessions and nice to see your participations, right, into the live sessions being organized by ACCA Pakistan. It was wonderful having a chat with all of you in this last 5 to 6 minutes, and I'll be seeing you back live for the fifth and final day of this Advanced Audit and Assurance Practice to Pass webinar for the subject which is reporting tomorrow. So do join live tomorrow as you will be gaining wonderful insights about reporting and some examiner expectations about reportings on the fifth and the final day tomorrow, right? So it's time to say you goodbye and Allah Hafiz. Have a nice day, and I'll see you all back tomorrow pumped up and motivated towards your September exams. And please drop your feedback, right? Please drop your feedback once you exit the webinar. The moment you exit the webinar, you will see a feedback screen. Kindly drop your feedback. That is very essential, right? And I'll be looking for your feedback even on the WhatsApp group. Okay, goodbye and Allah Hafiz.